more news, more often. Covering the nation and the world, you're waking up with Newsnet Mornings.
Good morning and welcome back. I'm Victoria Idoni with your headlines for your morning. Here's what's happening this Tuesday. We've got to look at why Tongan authorities have been wary that accepting international aid could usher in a bigger disaster than the huge eruption of an undersea volcano earlier this month. Plus, for the second time in just days, the president got caught calling questions stupid that were posed to him by American reporters. We've got those stories and more ahead, but first. A 6-month-old baby has fallen victim to gun violence in Atlanta after the car he was in was caught in the crossfire of a gunfight. The shooting happened near a convenience store and a school in the northwest part of the city. The child's mother said as she was driving, a bullet went into the back of her car and struck her infant. The child was rushed to the hospital, but was pronounced dead upon arrival.
The children are bearing this burden with their lives. And I'm here to ask and to demand that it stop right now.
A city reeling from violence is preparing to lay to rest a police officer, being hailed as an inspiration to his immigrant community. A memorial of candles and notes stood outside his Harlem apartment, not far from the scene of the shooting. Officer Jason Rivera died. Others are praying for the recovery of Officer Wilbert Mora after they were shot by a 47-year-old man who was eventually taken down by a rookie. Rivera had just graduated from the police academy himself last May, and Mora was just 1 year ahead of him. This week, in response, New York Mayor and former New York City Police Captain Eric Adams has vowed to step up efforts to find and seize firearms, with increased screening and expanded cash rewards for tipsters. He also called for pastors and other faith leaders to preach about public safety. And he's looking to broaden programs for youth mentoring and employment, with the hope that it will keep minors occupied during school breaks when violence increases. In Houston over the weekend, 47-year-old Deputy Corporal Charles Galloway was also shot and killed by a driver who fled the scene of the early morning traffic stop. 4 Baltimore firefighters were responding to a blaze at a vacant building when it collapsed, trapping them inside. The 3-story row home buckled under the heat of the 2-alarm blaze. Crews removed piles of debris to locate the firefighters. 2 of them were pronounced dead at the hospital. Chief Niles Ford warily announced the 3rd was pronounced dead at the scene. The chief also said 1 injured firefighter was pulled from the row home immediately and taken to the University of Maryland Medical Center shock trauma ward, where he has been listed in critical condition.
Firefighter McMasters is on life support. He's up in the intensive care unit. He has injuries that sometimes get worse before they get better, so we are keeping a very, very close eye on him.
This is a gut-wrenching tragedy for our city, for our fire department, and most importantly, for the families of our firefighters.
Our firefighters see each other like families, so they lost a family member. So my goal today is to make sure that they heal and turn inward, and we all take care of each other.
Meanwhile, down the I-95 corridor in Washington. Speaking in the White House East Room, President Biden said he had a very, very, very good meeting with European allies about the Russia-Ukraine situation. The president then told reporters he'd talk about that topic later in the day, because presently they were all there for an event about something entirely different, promoting economic competition and reducing prices for American consumers. Fox News reporter Peter Doocy moved on as requested and followed up with a question about inflation, which is at a nearly 40-year high. Ducey asked Biden, "Do you think inflation is a political liability, Mr. President?" Biden, who already seemed fed up with the press pool and was caught just last week on a hot mic calling another Fox reporter's question stupid, responded with sarcasm.
What a stupid son.
Ducey said later that he didn't hear the comment at the time, but that the president, for the first time after years of working together, called his cell phone to chat and clear the air, leading off the conversation by saying, quote, "It's nothing personal, pal." Our Vice President, Kamala Harris, was a little more ready to talk about Russia after the Pentagon ordered 8,500 U.S. troops to ready themselves to deploy to Europe as part of a NATO response force.
We respect the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine, and we expect that Russia would do the same, and any aggressive action taken by Vladimir Putin will be met with severe consequences. The ball is clearly in his court. I can't tell you what he's going to do, but we are prepared to take decisive action if he moves in an aggressive manner into Ukraine.
On top of deadly issues like the pandemic and war plaguing the world over, here in the U.S., overdoses are killing our young people at alarming rates.
Youth overdose deaths are on the rise. This is the latest push as more students are getting involved with drugs and falling victim more frequently. According to the CDC, the 15 to 24 age group saw the largest percentage increase in drug overdose death rates from 2019 to 2020 at 49%. The powerful opioid fentanyl has been showing up in other drugs like marijuana, illicit pills, and other substances accessible to school-aged children. Fatal overdoses in the U.S. are now at record levels. The National Association of School Nurses has advocated for Narcan to be in all schools since 2015. The association even created a toolkit for school nurses that includes information on how to use Narcan and educating the community about the opioid problem. The toolkit has been downloaded from the website more than 49,000 times in response to record drug overdoses. The National Office of National Drug Control Policy in November 2021 released a new model law for states to consider and expand access to help students in need, hoping for change. I'm Tolly Anderson reporting.
In Australia, police are investigating the death of a 43-year-old man who was reportedly killed when an explosive vest he was wearing detonated while he was driving his car down a suburban street. The vest was understood to have been triggered by the car hitting a speed bump. The car continued to travel a few hundred yards before it hit a parked vehicle. The driver was reportedly a former soldier and a father. This morning, Australian military officials announced a ship that was sent to deliver aid to Tonga is being kept at sea after 23 sailors aboard tested positive for the coronavirus. Since the pandemic began, Tonga has reported just one single case of COVID-19 and has avoided any outbreaks. As of right now, it's one of the few countries in the world that's completely virus-free. And there was another issue aboard a cruise ship headed for Miami that had nothing to do with COVID-19. After being told their cruise would have a change in itinerary due to non-technical operational issues, vacationers got another surprise. Passengers and entertainers were taken by ferry from the Bahamian island of Bimini to Port Everglades in Fort Lauderdale, after a judge granted an order to seize the vessel as part of a lawsuit over $4.6 million worth of unpaid fuel. The Crystal Symphony was scheduled to land in Miami on Saturday, but a U.S. federal judge issued an arrest warrant for the ship on Thursday, a maritime practice where a U.S. Marshal goes aboard the vessel and takes charge of it once it enters U.S. waters. The phrase, "you are what you eat," is commonly used in conversations about health and the connection between food and the body. Eating an unhealthy diet can have serious consequences and can increase someone's risk of dying from heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. A preventative cardiologist at Mayo Clinic discusses the relationship between food and disease.
Things like smoking and genetics put us at risk for developing different diseases, but neither is the biggest risk factor.
Nutrition is now the number one cause of early death and early disease in our country and the world.
Dr. Stephen Kopetsky says having genes for a disease will increase your risk by 30 to 40%, but having a bad lifestyle for disease will increase your risk by 300 to 400%.
About 57% of the calories we consume every day in this country are ultra-processed foods.
While ultra-processed foods tend to be convenient and cost-effective, they're very inflammatory and can cause a host of health issues over time.
It bothers our tissues, it bothers our heart, it bothers our arteries, our brains, our pancreas, our liver, our lungs, and that leads to disease. It could be in the brain, Alzheimer's, could be in the heart, it could be coronary artery disease, could be cancers elsewhere.
The good news is it's never too late to change your eating habits, and no change is too small.
If you take one bite of, say, a processed meat or an ultra-processed food, replace that with some unprocessed food or a healthier choice, vegetables, some black beans. After a year or two, that will actually lower your risk of heart attack and stroke.
I'm Dee Dee Steepen.
Nice neighbors, a gated community, well-lit streets. You may think your neighborhood is a safe place, but that won't stop porch pirates from stealing your treasures. The holidays are over, but people nationwide still order everything from toilet paper to electronics regularly. During the pandemic, 35 million Americans have been affected by porch pirates. From small to big packages, anything and everything is literally up for grabs. Nancy Alvarez has the details on how to stop porch pirates from looting your treasure.
Porch pirates, they strike in the middle of the day in good neighborhoods and bad.
Even if you are home and they leave and they don't knock, the package could just be left right there on the front door.
According to the American Journal of Criminal Justice, 23% of people surveyed say they have been victims of porch piracy. So how can you protect yourself? First, put up security signs at the end of your driveway. Let them know they're being monitored. That way, the thieves will not risk stealing anything from your porch. If you have Amazon Prime, consider using an Amazon locker and deliver it there instead, or use the app Amazon Key, which lets delivery drivers leave your package inside your home. Package lock boxes is another option. These can be installed near or in conjunction with your mailbox. Even a non-locking box prevents theft by concealing your deliveries.
So space out your packages, your delivery, or if there's some places have boxes, delivery boxes, that you can go and pick them up, that's also another option.
On today's National Day calendar, we celebrate a delicious cold weather cure.
Welcome to January 25th on the National Day calendar. On a cold, wet day in 1942, weary travelers to the small Shannon Airport in Southern Ireland found their way to a restaurant run by Joe Sheridan. To warm his guests, Joe served them hot coffee spiked with whiskey and topped with a pillow of whipped cream. One of these guests was travel writer Stanton Delaplane, who brought the idea of Irish coffee to the owners of the Buena Vista Cafe in California in 1952. Intrigued by his story, they tried to recreate the flavor, but concluded that it required a pilgrimage of their own to Joe's restaurant. Their efforts were rewarded with the secret to floating the whipped cream on top, and the authentic flavor has been enjoyed stateside ever since. On National Irish Coffee Day, celebrate the folks who went the distance to bring us this cold weather cure. I'm Anna DeVere with the National Day calendar. Join us again tomorrow as we celebrate every day.
Just make sure you're careful if you're headed out on the roads. Thanks, Anna. To find out what else you can celebrate today or in the week ahead, head on over to nationaldaycalendar.com. Stay with us. Weather, sports, and more are headed your way. With your latest headlines, I'm Victoria Idoni. Have a terrific Tuesday.